Welcome to Subscribe. Continuously updated.
You want to know the ugliest thing I ever seen at a Thanksgiving table? It wasn't the burnt turkey. Wasn't the lumpy mashed potatoes. It was the moment my own family looked at my 8-year-old daughter and called her a liar. Right there over the cranberry sauce. Right there with the candles flickering on the centerpiece and the football game humming in the living room. I'm Sarah. I'm 36 years old, a part-time bookkeeper, full-time mom, and until that Thursday afternoon, I was still trying to keep the family together after my husband Tom died 2 years ago. Tom's family, his mom, his sister Karen, his brother Mike and Mike's wife Gina, they still come to my house for the holidays. I let them. I wanted Lily to have family. I figured, they lost Tom too. We're all just limping along. So I spent 3 days cleaning the house, making the pies, setting up the extra table in the garage for the kids. I even polished the silverware Tom's grandma left us, the stuff Karen always said I didn't deserve. That morning Lily was slow getting out of bed. She'd been having these episodes, I guess you'd call them, since August. She'd wake up feeling like she had cement in her bones, complain her head was too heavy for her neck, and sometimes her hands would shake so bad she couldn't hold a fork. I'd taken her to the pediatrician 3 times. 3 times. They ran blood work, they poked her, they said it was probably anxiety. Kids her age, they don't always know how to express grief. That's what the doctor said. Grief. Sure. My kid missed her daddy, but she was still climbing trees and chasing the neighbor's dog 2 months ago. This was different. I could feel it in my gut, the way I knew Tom was sick before the scans came back. But you can't hand your gut to a doctor. Lily came downstairs around 10, wearing her favorite purple sweater with the little unicorn on it. "Mommy, it's a bad day," she whispered. I touched her forehead. No fever. But her eyes looked like a couple of blue marbles in a glass of water. "Okay, sweet pea," I said. "You can rest. Just come down when you feel up to it." I gave her some toast and apple slices, set her up on the couch with a blanket and the remote. The parade was on, all them giant balloons. She smiled a little. I kissed her head and went back to the kitchen, my stomach already in a knot. Around 2 o'clock they started Erevin. Karen bustled in first, carrying her green bean casserole like it was a holy relic. "Sarah, you still haven't fixed that step on the porch." I nearly broke my ankle. She's 52, works at a real estate office, and talks to me like I'm the tenant who's always late on rent. I took a breath. "Happy Thanksgiving, Karen. Can I get you some wine? White. And don't fill it to the top like last time." "I'm driving. Right. You're driving. In a subdivision with a speed limit of 25, in a car that probably tells you the weather on Mars. But okay. White wine it is." Then Mike and Gina came with their twins, 2 boys who communicate exclusively by hitting each other. Mike works in insurance and has the personality to match. He gave me a nod, asked if I needed help with the turkey, and then planted himself in front of the TV before I could answer. Gina put a store-bought pumpkin pie on the counter and said, "I tried to make one from scratch, but you know how it is with the boys." She always says that. Every holiday. It's her thing. I set out some cheese and crackers, turned up the music a little, pretended everything was normal. Tom's mom, Rose, came last. She's 73, walks with a cane, and still wears her wedding ring even though Papa Joe's been gone 15 years. She's the only one who ever hugs me. She did that day, too, frail little arms around my neck. "How's my Lily?" That's the first thing she always asks. "She's having a rough mornin', Rose." "She's on the couch." Rose frowned. "She's still having those spells?" I nodded. She patted my cheek. "You're a good mama." That should have made me feel better. It didn't. Because I could see the way Karen was staring at Lily across the room, like she was a science experiment gone wrong. By 3 o'clock, the turkey was restin' on the counter and I was pullin' everything together. I called everyone to the table. Lily got up slowly, blanket still wrapped around her shoulders, and I helped her into her chair. "You okay, baby?" She nodded but she looked pale. "Just tired." I fixed her a plate, just a little bit of everything, nothin' heavy. She took a few bites. I thought maybe, just maybe, we'd get through it. Then Karen opened her mouth. "So, Lily," she said, not even lookin' at her, cuttin' her turkey into tiny little pieces like she was performin' surgery. "Are you gonna eat tonight? Or are you gonna have another episode so your mom has to carry you upstairs again?" The table went quiet. Mike stopped Chaewin. Gina stared at her plate. Rose put down her fork. I felt a hot flush crawl up my neck. "Karen," I said, keeping my voice even. "She's not feelin' well." "There's no need to, oh, please." Karen finally looked up. "We've all seen it. She's fine when she wants to watch TV or play on that tablet. But the second there's work to be done, or school, or a family dinner, suddenly she can't walk. It's classic attention-seeking behavior. My neighbor's kid did the same thing. A little therapy and she was magically cured." She smiled, that tight, know-it-all smile. "You're not doing her any favors, Sarah. You're just letting her think she can get away with anything." Lily's little face crumpled. Her hands started shaking. I saw her drop her fork and try to hide them under the table. "Mommy," she whispered, "I'm not pretendin'. I'm not." I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab that green bean casserole and dump it over Karen's perfect highlighted hair. But I've been raised to be polite. To keep the peace. So I said, "Karen, that's enough. You don't know what you're talking about." "I know what I see," she shot back. "Mike, back me up here. You've seen it. Last summer at the barbecue, she was running around with the twins, and then 10 minutes later she can't stand up? Give me a break." Mike shrugged, looking uncomfortable. "Well, I mean, it does seem kinda sudden sometimes." Gina nodded along, the coward. "Yeah, I've noticed too." "No offense, Sarah." "Offense. None taken. My family." I stood up. "Lily, honey, let's go," but Lily tried to stand on her own, maybe trying to prove she wasn't weak, and her legs just buckled. She slid off the chair and hit the floor, her head thumping against the hardwood, and she didn't cry. She just lay there, eyes half shut, shaking harder now, like a little bird caught in a wires. I dropped to my knees. "Lily. Baby, look at me." She couldn't. Her eyes were rolling back. Someone screamed, probably Gina. I heard a chair scrape, a glass shatter. Karen was saying something, "She's fakin', look at her, she's puttin' on a show," and I couldn't even process the words because my child was on the floor and nobody was helpin'. Then Rose's cane banged on the table. "Karen, shut your mouth. Call 911. Now." Mike finally moved, fumbled for his phone. I cradled Lily's head, feeling her skin cold and clammy. She was breathin' but it was shallow. "It's okay, baby, it's okay, mommy's here." I didn't know what else to say. Around me the room was chaos, the twins cryin', Karen still mudderin', Mike on the phone with the dispatcher, but all I could see was my little girl, her unicorn sweater bunched up under her arms, her face so small and scared. Then the front door opened and a man's voice said, "Sarah? What's going on?" I saw the cars and, oh God. It was Dr. James Aldridge, our neighbor from 2 houses down. He's a retired internal medicine doc, a widower, walks his golden retriever past our house every morning. Sweet man. Brought us soup when Tom died. He'd been checking in on Lily now and then, on his own time, just as a friend. I'd told him about the episodes a few weeks ago, and he'd asked to see the labs. I gave him the copies. He'd been quiet for a few days. Now he was kneeling next to me, 2 fingers on Lily's neck, his voice calm. "How long she been down?" Just a minute, maybe. She's shaken, she's cold, okay. Paramedics are on the way. I need you to stay calm for her, got it? I nodded, numb. Karen stepped forward, arms crossed. Oh, great, here we go. A doctor makes house calls now? This is a circus. James ignored her. He gently lifted Lily's eyelids, checked her pulse again, then reached into his jacket pocket. Sarah, I was comin' over to talk to you anyway. I got a letter this mornin'. He pulled out a thick white envelope, the kind that comes certified mail. It was unopened, but the return address was from some medical institute in Rochester, maybe the specialist Lily's pediatrician had mentioned once but I couldn't afford. I stared at it. What is that? I called in a favor, James said quietly. An old colleague of mine reviewed Lily's labs. The ones the pediatrician said were normal. I had a feeling they weren't. He held up the envelope, sealed with red wax. He told me not to open it until he called me. He called 10 minutes ago. And he told me I should open it, in front of the family. The room went dead still. Even Karen shut up. The paramedic sirens were wailin' in the distance, gettin' closer. James looked at me, then at Rose, then at Karen, and finally down at Lily, who was still shaken on the floor. Sarah, I need you to trust me. Whatever's in this letter, it's gonna explain everything. And I mean everything. He held the envelope out to me. My hands were tremblin' so hard I could barely see straight. I looked at Karen, her face caught between contempt and confusion. Mike, still on the phone, stared like a deer in headlights. Rose, with tears in her eyes, nodded at me. Open it, Sarah. So I took the letter. The seal cracked loud as a gunshot in that kitchen. I pulled out the folded paper inside. My eyes scanned the first few lines of medical jargon, and then I saw the words. One phrase. One goddamn sentence that turned the whole world sideways. I looked up at James. He nodded slowly. Go ahead. Read it out loud. I opened my mouth, the sirens outside now fillin' the driveway, my daughter still on the floor, my family still watchin' me like I was the one on trial. And I read. My daughter isn't sick because she wants attention. She's sick because she has juvenile dermatomyositis. A rare autoimmune disease. And it's been eating away at her muscles for 6 months while every single one of you called her a liar. The words hung in that kitchen like smoke. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish on the dock. Rose let out this sound, something between a gasp and a sob, and grabbed the back of a chair to steady herself. James stepped forward, his old doctor's voice calm and steady. It's a disease that causes muscle weakness, skin rashes, and severe fatigue. The blood work showed elevated muscle enzymes. Creatine kinase levels over 5,000. A normal child's is under 200. Lily's muscles have been literally breaking down for months. The paramedics burst through the front door right then, all business, radios crackling, heavy boots on Rose's hardwood floors. 2 of them knelt beside Lily, and I watched them work like I was underwater. Checking vitals. Asking questions I couldn't hear. The older one, a woman with gray streaks in her hair, looked up at me sharp. Ma'am, we need to know her medical history. Any conditions we should know about? Juvenile dermatomyositis, I said. First time those words ever came out of my mouth. She was just diagnosed. Literally. Right now. The paramedic nodded, professional, but her eyes got soft. Okay. We're gonna take good care of her. We need to transport to Strong Memorial. You ridin' with us? I looked down at the letter still in my hands. My fingers had crumpled it without me even noticing. Yeah. I'm coming. They got Lily on a stretcher, and watching them lift my baby girl, so small and pale against those white sheets, something inside me just cracked wide open. All those months. All those doctor visits. All those nights holding her while she cried and told me her legs felt like cement. And the whole time, her own body was attacking itself. Her own immune system. Like some kind of sick joke. Karen stepped toward the stretcher, and I moved without thinking, put myself between her and my daughter. Don't. Sarah, I didn't know you didn't want to know. My voice came out low and hard. For 6 months, Karen. 6 months you told everyone at church that Lily was just grieving too hard. That I was coddling her. That Tom would be ashamed of how I was raising her. Remember that? I remember. Her face went white as the tablecloth. Mike and Gina stood frozen by the stove, the turkey still sitting there on the counter, getting cold. A whole Thanksgiving dinner, ruined. And I couldn't have cared less. Your brother died, I said, and instead of helping his daughter, you decided she was faking. You decided I was a bad mother. You made my little girl cry on Christmas last year, Karen. Christmas. Because you told her Jesus doesn't like liars. She was 7 years old. Rose grabbed Karen's arm, her grip strong despite her age. You need to leave. Now. All of you. Mike, take Gina and go. Karen, I'll deal with you later. But Mom, I said go. Rose's voice could have cut glass. You've done enough. The paramedic started moving the stretcher, and I followed, still holding that crumpled letter like a lifeline. The ambulance was parked in the driveway, lights flashing red and white across the neighborhood. Half the block would be watching by now. Let them watch. Let them all see what happens when a family decides a child is lying instead of listening. I climbed into the back of the ambulance, and the doors slammed shut. The younger paramedic, a guy who looked barely out of college, started hooking up monitors while the gray-haired woman, her name tag said Martinez, got an 4-line going. Lily's eyes fluttered open for a second, and she looked at me, confused and scared. Mommy? I'm here, baby. I'm right here. I took her hand, careful not to mess with the 4. We figured it out. The doctors know what's wrong now. You're gonna be okay. Is Aunt Karen still mad? That question. That one simple question. It broke me. My 8-year-old daughter, lying in an ambulance on Thanksgiving, worried about whether her aunt was still mad at her. I wanted to scream. I wanted to hit something. Instead, I squeezed her hand and smiled, the hardest smile I've ever made. Don't you worry about Aunt Karen. You just rest. The ambulance started moving, siren wailing, and I watched the houses of our neighborhood slide past the back window. The Johnsons' place with the inflatable turkey on the lawn. The Miller's house where Tom used to help with their gutters every fall. All these perfect little houses, perfect little families, perfect little lives. And here we were, falling apart in the back of an ambulance while the whole block ate their pumpkin pie. Martinez caught my eye. You said this just got diagnosed? Like, today? Yeah. My neighbor's a retired doctor. He pulled some strings, got her blood work sent to a specialist in Rochester. The letter came during dinner. And your family didn't believe she was sick? They said she was looking for attention. Since her dad died. Martinez shook her head, and I saw something flicker in her eyes. Anger, maybe. Or just the kind of tired sadness that comes from seeing too many kids get hurt by the people who should protect them. Some people don't deserve family. No, I said. They don't. We rode in silence for a while. The monitors beeped. Lily's breathing steadied out a little. The sirens cut off as we got closer to the hospital, and the world got quiet again. I looked at the letter, smoothed it out on my lap, and read the whole thing for the first time. Dr. Aldridge had written a summary on top, his old-fashioned cursive neat and careful. Sarah, I'm sorry I didn't push harder sooner. The muscle biopsy results from Rochester confirm JDMS. She'll need immediate treatment. Steroids, immunosuppressants, physical therapy. It's a long road, but treatable. Call me when you're ready. Treatable. That word hit me like a wave. 6 months of not knowing. 6 months of pediatricians telling me it was anxiety, it was grief, it was growing pains. And the whole time it was treatable. If someone had just listened. If someone had just believed us. The ambulance pulled into the ER bay at Strong Memorial, and things started moving fast. Nurses, doctors, a flurry of questions and forms. They whisked Lily into a room, and I stood in the hallway, still holding that letter, trying to remember how to breathe. That's when my phone buzzed. Rose. Karen's still here. She won't leave. She's in the kitchen, crying. What do you want me to do? I stared at the screen. Part of me wanted to tell Rose to throw her out. To lock the doors. To never let her near my daughter again. But another part of me, the part that remembered Thanksgivings before Tom died, when Karen was just the bossy sister-in-law who brought terrible green bean casserole and argued about politics but always remembered Lily's birthday, that part wanted something I couldn't quite name. Let her sit, I typed back. Let her think about what she did. A doctor came out of Lily's room, a young woman with tired eyes and a clipboard. Mrs. Morrison? I'm Dr. Chen. We've got your daughter stabilized. Her CPK levels are extremely elevated, but we're starting corticosteroids now. She's going to be here for a while. A few weeks, at least. Can I see her? Of course. She's asking for you. I walked into that hospital room, and Lily looked so small in that big bed, hooked up to machines, and 4 in her arm, but her eyes were clear for the first time in months. Mommy, they said I'm really sick. But they can fix it, right? I sat down beside her, took her hand again. Yeah, baby. They can fix it. It's gonna take a long time, and you're gonna have to take a lot of medicine, and there's gonna be some hard days. But they can fix it. Was it my fault? No. I said it fast and hard. No, Lily. None of this was your fault. Your body just got confused. It started fighting itself instead of fighting germs. That's not your fault. That's nobody's fault. But Aunt Karen said Aunt Karen was wrong. I leaned in close, made her look at me. You listen to me, Lily. You are the bravest kid I've ever known. You've been sick for 6 months, and you never stopped trying. You never stopped going to school, never stopped playing with your friends when you could, never stopped being my girl. Aunt Karen doesn't know anything. You understand me? She nodded, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. 8 years old, and already learning that adults could be wrong. That people who were supposed to love you could hurt you worse than any disease. That was the part one couldn't fix with medicine. I stayed with her until she fell asleep, the steroids already starting to work, her muscles relaxing for the first time in months. The nurses came and went, checking monitors, adjusting drips. Outside the window, the sun went down, and Thanksgiving Day turned into Thanksgiving night. My phone buzzed again. Rose, with a picture. The kitchen, cleaned up. The turkey put away. And Karen, sitting alone at the table, her head in her hands, a cup of cold coffee in front of her. The text said, she wants to talk. She says she'll wait all night if she has to. I looked at Lily, sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks. I looked at the letter from Dr. Aldridge. I looked at the picture of Karen, the woman who had made our lives hell for 6 months, now sitting in her mother's kitchen, waiting to apologize. And I realized that the hardest part wasn't over. Not even close. The diagnosis was just the beginning. Now I had to decide what to do about my family. About Karen. About all the people who had looked the other way while my daughter suffered. I had to decide if forgiveness was something I was capable of. Or if some things, once broken, could never be put back together. I texted Rose back, tell her I'll call tomorrow. She can wait. Then I put my phone away, took Lily's hand again, and watched my daughter sleep while the hospital hummed around us. For the first time in 6 months, I wasn't scared of what was wrong. I knew what we were fighting now. And I knew how to fight it. The rest? The family, the forgiveness, the future? That could wait. Chapter 3. What broken things look like. She woke up around 6 in the morning, when the nurse came in to check vitals. Lily stirred, her eyelids fluttering. For the first time in months, she didn't wince when she moved her arm. The steroids were already doing something. "Mommy?" Her voice was small. "Is Karen still mad at me?" Jesus. 6 months of that woman's poison, and my 7-year-old was still worried about whether she'd offended her aunt. I smoothed Lily's hair back. It was thinner than it used to be. Another thing the disease took. No, baby. She's not mad. She knows she was wrong now. Oh. Lily thought about this. Did she say sorry? Not yet. But she wants to. Lily nodded, like that settled something. Kids are amazing that way. She closed her eyes and drifted back to sleep while I sat there, letting the hospital sounds wash over me. The beeping monitors. The squeak of nurses' shoes in the hallway. Someone's breakfast tray rattling past. My phone buzzed. Rose. She stayed all night, Sarah. Fell asleep at the kitchen table around 4. I made her coffee just now. She looks awful. You still want to talk to her? I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to make Karen wait another week. Another month. Let her feel even a fraction of what Lily went through. But that wasn't going to help my daughter get better. And honestly, I was exhausted. Carrying around that much anger is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. Eventually it shoots up and smacks you in the face. I stepped into the hallway, found a quiet corner near the vending machines, and dialed Rose's number. Put her on. There was shuffling. Then Karen's voice, cracked and raw. Sarah? Yeah. I let the silence stretch. Let her squirm. I don't even know where to start. I was so wrong. I almost. God, Sarah, if anything had happened to her because of me. Because of you? I couldn't keep the acid out of my voice. You mean if I'd listened to you and stopped taking her to doctors? If I'd just told her to stop being dramatic like you suggested at Easter? Is that what you mean? Karen started crying. Not the performative kind she did at family gatherings when she wanted attention. Real, ugly crying. The kind that makes your nose run. I know. I know what I did. I told everyone at church she was making it up. I told Mom you were projecting your grief onto Lily. I told Mike you needed an intervention. You told my 7-year-old that Jesus doesn't like liars. At Christmas dinner. She cried for 2 hours that night, Karen. 2 hours. And I didn't know why until weeks later because she was too scared to tell me. Oh God. Karen's voice broke completely. I remember that. I thought I was helping. I thought if she just admitted she was faking, she'd snap out of it. Snap out of it. I laughed, but there was nothing funny about it. She has a rare autoimmune disease. Her muscles have been eating themselves for 6 months. Her CK levels were over 5,000. Do you even know what that means? The doctor said she must have been in pain every single day. Every day you called her a liar. Karen was sobbing now. I could hear Rose in the background, saying something softly. Probably telling her to breathe. Sarah, I will do anything. I'll tell everyone I was wrong. I'll go to the church and stand up in front of everybody and admit it. I'll pay for her treatment. Whatever you need. Her treatment's covered by insurance. What I needed was my family to believe me 6 months ago. What I needed was someone to ask, hey, maybe something's really wrong, instead of holding a vote at Thanksgiving dinner to decide if my daughter was faking. That was the thing. The real wound. It wasn't just Karen. It was all of them. Mike shifting uncomfortably in his chair. Gina saying, well, you know how kids are. Even Rose, bless her heart, trying to keep the peace instead of telling Karen to shut her mouth months ago. Everyone had looked the other way while my little girl faded. I was jealous. Karen's voice was barely a whisper now. When Tom died, you had Lily. And I don't have anyone. My marriage fell apart. My kids barely call. And you still had this beautiful little girl who adored you. When she started getting sick, I thought. I told myself you were making it worse so you'd have something to focus on. I convinced myself you wanted her to be sick. I closed my eyes and leaned against the cold hospital wall. There it was. The ugly truth, finally out in the open. Karen hadn't been trying to protect Lily from some imagined Munchausen's by proxy. She'd been jealous. Jealous that even in grief, I had something she didn't. A child who needed me. You almost killed her. I said it flatly. You know that, right? If James hadn't come through with that specialist, if I'd listened to you for one more month, the damage to her heart muscles could have been permanent. She could have died, Karen. Because my sister-in-law was lonely. Karen wailed. Actually wailed. I heard Rose take the phone. Honey, Rose said, her own voice shaky. I'm so sorry. I should have seen it. I should have stopped her. You couldn't have known. And that was the truth too. Nobody could have known except the doctors who kept missing it. But the family could have believed me. That was the part that stung. Look, I have to go. Lily's waking up soon. Tell Karen, tell her I hurt her. That's all I can give right now. Sarah? Is she going to be okay? Really okay? I thought about the months ahead. The physical therapy. The immune suppressants. The risk of flare-ups. The permanent muscle weakness they couldn't reverse. She's going to survive. The rest, we'll figure out. I hung up and stood there for a minute, watching a janitor mop the floor near the elevators. A guy in scrubs walked past with 2 cups of coffee, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Life kept happening. Even when yours felt like it had stopped. When I got back to the room, Lily was awake. A young physical therapist was there, a cheerful woman named Marta who had a tattoo of a sunflower on her wrist. Hey, sweetheart, she was saying. We're just gonna try some gentle stretches today. Nothing scary. Can you squeeze my fingers for me? Lily squeezed. It wasn't much. But it was something. That's amazing. You're so strong. Strong. I sat in the chair by the window and watched them work, and I thought about what that word really meant. For 6 months, Lily had been getting weaker and weaker, and people kept telling me she needed to toughen up. But she'd been tough all along. Tougher than any of us. Getting out of bed every morning when your own body was attacking you? That's not weakness. That's something else entirely. Around noon, Rose texted again. She'd driven Karen home. Karen was going to call the pastor that afternoon and ask to speak at the next service. She was also going to tell Mike and Gina the whole truth. The real truth. Not the cleaned-up version. Good, I typed back. Let her. I didn't say I forgave her. Maybe I never would, not fully. Some cracks in a foundation don't ever really seal. You just learn to live in a house that's a little uneven. The floors slope. The doors don't close all the way. But it still keeps the rain out. That afternoon, Lily asked me to braid her hair. Her arms were too tired to hold them up while I worked, so I sat behind her on the bed and did it slowly, gently. The hospital window looked out over a parking garage and a strip of gray November sky. Somewhere out there, people were putting up Christmas decorations. Buying turkeys for late celebrations. Living their lives. Mommy? Lily said, as I tied off the braid with the little elastic the nurse had given us. Yeah, baby. I'm glad you didn't listen to them. I wrapped my arms around her carefully, mindful of the 4-line. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. And sitting there in that sterile room, with my daughter's heart beating steady against my chest, I realized something. The family drama, the apologies, the church confessions, the whole mess of it, that was all noise. Background static. The real story was right here. A mom and her kid, fighting like hell against something nobody could see. We had a long road ahead. Months of treatment. Probably years of managing this condition. But for the first time since Tom died, I felt like I knew exactly where I was supposed to be and what I was supposed to do. Everything else could wait. The forgiveness. The rebuilding. The question of whether Thanksgiving would ever happen at Rose's house again. That was all for later. Right now, I just held my daughter and let the machine beep its steady rhythm. Beep. 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 Like a heartbeat. Like proof that we were still here.